the kingdom. He has not fully entered the kingdom, but he has gotten to the place of seeking the kingdom. Seek ye first, then all these things shall be added. Before it gets added unto him, he is seeking. The seeking mind becomes aware of the greater force. And then read on, Frank.
I am Jesus, whom thou persecute.
I am the Christ. I am Jesus. I am the Christ. In the Old Testament, it was concealed with the I am that I am. But in the New Testament, it is revealed that I am the Christ. Oh, God, Jesus. Oh, God. In the Old Testament, it was concealed with the I am that I am. But in the New Testament, it is revealed with the I am the Christ. That is the holy nature. That is the highest nature. That is the nature above all nature, the name above all names, the nature above all nature. At the nature of the Christ, every knee shall bow. All carnal things must bow to the higher nature of the Christ. Mind within you. You see, this revelation of I am Jesus, I am the Christ. This is a revelation that Paul gets, people. This is a revelation of the I am identity. This is a revelation of the I am identity. This is a revelation of the I am identity, the Christ presence within. And until you come into that revelation of I am the Christ, you will not experience the second coming of the Christ. Oh, I am the Christ. I am the Christ. I am the Christ. You see, the carnal Saul is being pierced by the Christ light. The carnal identification of Saul is being pierced, Frankie. It's being pierced by the Christ light. The higher frequency of the truth, of the word, it is being pierced with the higher frequency of the divine tone. There came a sound from heaven, the Christ consciousness, like a rushing mighty wind, that when it fell, tongues of fire, because the revelation began to come in that upper room of I am the Christ. There is another thing here that is very interesting, Frank. Go down to verse 8.
Sure.
There's another thing that happens here. When Paul has this experience, he falls from the carnal nature. And this is esoteric of him falling off of the horse. You see, when this happens with Saul, Saul is riding a horse. The horse represents the carnal identity. He falls off of the horse, which represents he falls off of his carnal self-image and falls off of it to get into his divine self-image. But I want to go to verse 8 now, because there's something happens after this revelation, after the piercing of the Christ tone, after the Christ light pierces through on him, to him, operating with him. What does it say there in Acts chapter 9, verse 8?
And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus.
Whoa. This is interesting. Because it goes on to say that Saul saw no man. And read that verse 9.
And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink.
Oh. He was 3 days without sight. He was 3 days in hell. On the third day, he resurrected. Jonah was 3 days in the fish's mouth. Oh, Frank, they don't want to work with me. 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 Jonah was in 3 days in the whale or in the fish's mouth, just like Jonah, who was in the belly of hell 3 days without sight. Oh, God. Saul was blinded. You know what that blinding means? The intellect is no longer ruling. That's why everyone can't understand this. They can't handle this. He was blinded from the carnal mind that is ruled by the intellect. Why was he blinded? Because the intellect is no longer ruling. Some theologians says this was the thing that Paul was praying 3 times for God to change. They would say that when Paul receives that revelation, he loses something in the physical and gains something in the spiritual. And Paul was praying and asking God to restore it, but God was teaching him that my grace is sufficient. Ooh, I better slow down here. He was blinded. His intellect is no longer ruling. It is now being reprogrammed. The 3 days represents the symbology of spiritual resurrection. It represents the 3 days, represents the spiritual resurrection. But we see something else. After it says that he had no sight, Frank, in verse 9, you said something about food.
Yep. And neither did he eat nor drink.
You see, that's interesting. Fasting from food and drink. This represents the denial of outer nourishment and realignment with inner sustenance from the Spirit. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth the mouthpiece of the divine mind, which is God. He is now getting into a stage where the Word preserves him, no longer mammon preserving him. The beast, or the horse Saul rode, represents the ego intellect. To fall from it is to descend from the reasoning and ascend into the knowing. Ascend into the knowing. Prophet, we're following you, knowing what? Ascending in the knowing of I am the Christ. Oh, God! The knowing of Christ in me, my hope and glory. The knowing of greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. The knowing that it is the Father within that is ever doing the work. The knowing that I am created and in his image and likeness. The knowing that if the same Spirit dwells in you that dwells in Christ. The knowing, let this mind be transferred, awakened in you, that was also in Christ. The knowing of I am the Christ. Oh, God, this is getting deep. And once he takes on this identity of I am the Christ, he no longer identifies with his carnal self. He no longer allows his carnal self to persecute the Christ. But now he is going through a death of the carnal identity to be awakened to the Christ identity. Oh, God, I feel something. Once we get into the ascension of the knowing through stilling the mind, in my higher coursework, we get into that higher knowing, and that higher knowing starts when consciousness or when mind reaches the state of 7 hertz. When mind starts getting into the 7 hertz, it reaches the state that we know as prophets, as the knowing. It is at this state that the divine mind begins to speak through visions and dreams and open visions. It is in this state that you experience the Christ. Whew, God, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this. But it is also at this state that we are to pray from. The higher prayer and the higher levels of prayer. Let's go to Mark chapter 11, verse 24. Mark chapter 11, verse 24. When we get born into the Christ mind, this is when we really start understanding the higher level of prayer. The carnal mind begs from need, prays from need, begs from need, while the Christ mind creates from the divine self. It creates with seed. You see, the carnal mind begs from need, while the Christ mind creates through the seed of thought and feeling. Oh, this is getting good. This is getting good. So in prayer, there are 3 levels. The highest level of prayer is operating as the Christ, praying in his nature. And prayer in its highest form is the alignment with what already is. Believing that you already have it is not wishful thinking, but entering into kingdom or the Christ identity of I am the Christ, where all things are complete. This is why I say that the Father has nothing else to give you. He has nothing else to give you. The Father has nothing else to give you. He has given you all things through the truth of your divine identity. All you have to do is remember who you are. So the highest level of prayer is when you are understanding that all prayer is acknowledging what you already have.